In this video, we are going to recognize and use the appropriate special product pattern. So let's take a look at the two patterns we're really looking at. One is a binomial squared, and then the other is a product of conjugates. Now, if we square a binomial, a plus b squared, remember that is just a plus b times a plus b. So if you forget the pattern, just take a plus b and times a plus b, write them next to each other. But you will always get this wonderful pattern, a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Now, the only thing that changes if there's a minus between them, so if you have a minus b squared or a minus b times a minus b, is that this middle term becomes a negative, but the rest stays the same. So one way to always remember it is it's the first term squared. This sign will match, so plus 2 times their product or minus 2 times their product, plus the last term squared, okay? What's great about squaring this binomial is you're going to get 3 terms all the time. You can do the FOIL if you want. The inner and outer terms are always going to match. That's why you get 2 ABs. And it's always that double of the product, okay? Now, conjugates are useful for many different applications. You're going to see this pattern happen again and again, so it's a really good one to know. Anytime you have an a plus b, and then you'll notice the same exact thing, but an a minus b, it's always going to be a binomial product, so 2 terms. In this case, a squared minus b squared. The inner and outer terms of the FOIL process ends up being a plus AB and a minus AB, so that's why there's no middle term. But if you actually just FOIL that a times a times negative b, b times a, b times negative b, it will get you where you want. But this is just a little shortcut. It's a really good way to recognize and use these patterns. So let's look at an example. So here it says to choose the appropriate pattern and use it to find the product. So you'll notice that we have 2 terms, there's a subtraction between them, and we're trying to square it. So the pattern we're looking for is this one right here. So we're just going to take the first term squared minus 2 times their product plus the last term squared. Now, if you can do that part in your head, that's fine. If I square 5x, 5x times 5x is 25x squared. 2 times 5x times negative 2 is where the negative 20x comes from. And then 2 squared is 4. So hopefully eventually you'll get to the point where you can just take this and jump right to that. Now this is a product of conjugates, so that's the pattern we see over here on the right. So that one we can just jump to the fact that it is the first term squared minus the last term squared. Well, 5x squared we saw earlier is 25x squared. 6 squared is 36, so that would be that. Now, if you don't recognize that pattern, feel free to use FOIL, 5x times 5x, 5x times 6, negative 6 times 5x, negative 6 times 6. It is more time consuming that way. If you recognize the pattern, that's a great way to get to your 25x squared minus 36 a little quicker. Let's take a look at this one. Now that is the same as 3y plus 5 times 3y plus 5. That is the binomial squared pattern you see right here. So it's going to be the first term squared plus this time 2 times the product of 3y and 5 plus the last term squared. So 3y, that quantity squared is 9y squared. 2 times 3y times 5 is 30y. And 5 squared is 25. So eventually, if you learn this pattern, you can hopefully just jump right to that. Now, this one, the way that it currently sits, doesn't really seem to fit any of our patterns. But m minus 2 and 2 minus m are actually just complete opposites. And let me kind of walk you through it. M here is positive, m here is negative. 2 here is negative, but 2 here is positive. Exact opposites. So how can we fix it? If we factor out a negative 1, that would turn this, and they would match now. So that's now, actually, it's one of our patterns. It's this bottom one we see here. Now, just leave that negative out in front for the moment. M squared minus 2 times the product of m and 2 plus 2 squared leaves us with what we see here. Now, you can leave the negative out in front. You could also possibly multiply it through. It doesn't really matter, but we get a final answer of the negative 1 times the quantity of, or the opposite of the quantity of, m squared minus 4m plus 4. So there's a little bit about recognizing and using some special product patterns. Thank you so much for watching. You have a good day.